Hey folks, I'm back. Welcome to Transplant Helper again today. My name is Jim Merle, and you might notice again, I'm back outside. No particular reason for that other than it just happens to be a beautiful, kind of breezy day out here, maybe about 75 degrees. So for us in the South, that is absolutely awesome. Probably the only holdup right now is that airplane coming way back over there somewhere that might be disturbing us. But anyway, if you can overlook the sound of the airplanes coming by, which is not a regular thing necessarily, it just happens, we'll move on with what we're talking about. Now, today I'm not talking to you as much as a transplant patient, especially if you're someone who, say, is, a year or 2 or 3 or 10 years out of transplant. I'm not necessarily talking to you. The ones I'm talking to today are more or less going to be those who are pre-transplant, and even more than that. If you'll move over just a little bit, sir, just move right there, yeah. I want to see that person back in the corner of your room. I don't want to see you today, Mr. Transplant, Mrs. Transplant. I want to see the caregiver who's with you, whoever it is. If it's your spouse, if it's a child, if it's a parent, if it's a family friend, a coworker, I don't know who it is. I want to talk today for just a minute to you. You can listen, don't get me wrong, but I want to be talking today to your caregiver. I've had a series of programs I'll link up here in the corners as well as in the description below concerning caregivers, healthy advice for caregivers, how to be a good caregiver, just a lot of stuff, okay? I'll link that around this video somewhere. But today I wanted to add to that for probably the most obvious reason of all, and that is I want to tell you as a caregiver, the number one thing, do you hear me? The number one thing you can do right now to be sure that your loved one, whoever they are, has the most success they can have immediately after transplant. Is that what you want? Do you want your friend, your family member, your coworker, all those relationships not named again? Do you want them to have a successful transplant? Do you want to know how to make that transplant a huge success? There's one key to it. And this key, at the same time, if it's not done and if it's not done right, it ultimately becomes a huge failure, okay? So listen to me carefully. Here's what it is. One thing, that's all. When your loved one, when the doctors start talking, and they will, don't worry, don't panic, but when the doctors start talking about sending them home, now they may mean sending them all the way home, like as we say, to the house. They may mean, and most likely might mean, that they're going to be leaving the hospital, moving to an outside facility like an apartment, like another wing of the hospital sometimes, just another place that's probably centered around the hospital within a certain distance. For my transplant center, I think it was about a 15-minute limit they wanted to put us inside of. Don't quote me on that because yours may be different. But anyway, they're not necessarily wanting you to travel all the way home. Like for me to travel an hour and a half home via an interstate. They want me to stay close to the hospital. So when they started talking about sending me home and sending me just a few minutes down the road to an apartment, one thing became very, 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 is that enough varies? Are you sure? Very, very? There's enough varies. Very, very, very important to me, but more than that, to my family. And that was to being sure that I had a good environment to go to, okay? You were going to be leaving the hospital at that point, and I'm talking about if you're a few days, a couple of weeks, a month outside of transplant. You're going to be leaving at that point, in the most immunosuppressed point of your entire transplant journey, okay? They're going to have your immune system basically wiped out at that point in an attempt to try to prevent rejection. Now, that's a good thing. That's your survival. That's the way it has to work. But while they're doing that, they're going to be taking away your immune system. So you're going to be very, very, very susceptible to anything. Any colds, any flus, any little bugs, any little bacteria, any little virus, anything and everything potentially for the first few months you could catch. And I'm talking about stuff that didn't hurt the person next to you, who, your brother had it and he had it for 2 days and he's fine. Wasn't no big deal. He ran a little bit of a fever, maybe threw up a time or two. I'm sorry to use the word throw up on camera, but, maybe he got sick a time or two and he's fine. But you try catching that. You're immune suppressed now. You try catching that. What's going to happen? You're not going to run a little bitty fever. You're going to have an extremely high fever. You're going to have a terrible infection. You're going to be vomiting yeah, everything for days and days and days. Let me give an example of that. The first time I caught what we call the stomach bug, the stomach virus, I didn't have it for 24 hours like everybody else. I had it for 14 days, okay? I got 10 fingers, add 4 to that. I had it for 14 days, okay? I was in the hospital majority of that time. I was on IV meds. I was getting every test under the sun. Man, I got a lower GI. You know what that is, a colonoscopy, a lower GI done, because the doctors weren't sure that this was a bug, okay? I had to go through all of that. Why? Because I got sick. I got sick in a moment when I didn't think I was so vulnerable. So here's what your family needs to do. Maybe I hadn't said it yet. They need to go to that place, wherever you're going. If you're going all the way home, fine, celebration, balloons popping everywhere, go have fun. Or if you're going to that apartment, still a great feat in itself. To leave the hospital, to get anywhere but there, a great feat. But wherever you're going, they need to go and clean and clean and clean and clean and clean. That enough cleans? And clean that place and disinfect it. I'm talking top to bottom. I'm talking floors and or ceilings. Wipe down the walls, wipe down the cabinets, wipe down the toilets, jerk the sheets off the bed, spray anything they can. I say Lysol, that's all we use around here, but spray anything they can on that mattress to kill anything they might think might be in that mattress. Then they need to get a mattress protector, one of those rubbery things, like if a child, you know, wets the bed, put that on it, put it all back together, just clean this place, okay? And I know your wife or you or somebody, you know, you're already good, clean people. You're already, you know, take care of yourselves. You got nice things back home. But more than likely, you're not going back home. You're going to an apartment, which, let's face it, an apartment or hotel or whatever it is, that's public housing, folks. That's where everybody sleeps. That's where everybody goes TT. That's where everybody cooks whatever they cook in that little kitchenette area, that hot plate. It's not a clean place, and it won't be a clean place until your family get in there and clean, okay? I can remember after my transplant, my wife already was kind of thinking this way, but what was really a lifesaver for us is a couple of her friends came over. I think it was 2, maybe 3 days before I got out of that place, out of the hospital to move there. They came over, and I mean, they were gone all day. You know, we're talking about an apartment, you know, left 2-bedroom, or no, maybe it was 1 bedroom, maybe a 2-room, not 2-bedroom, but a little tiny little apartment. They were gone all day long. They cleaned, they disinfect, they scrubbed. I mean, this is like your great-grandmother down on the floor with a mop bucket and the scrub brush, that kind of stuff. They scrubbed, they cleaned, they disinfect, they sprayed it, they fogged it, I don't know. They got it ready. So that when I went back to that, I would be fine. And it worked. It worked. Now, the stomach virus I'm telling you about actually happened a lot later than that, but it worked. As long as you can control the environment that you're in, especially the indoor environment where air is stagnant and stale and not circulating as much, you're going to be better off for it, okay? So let me just encourage you. I know that's been probably 8 or 9 minutes to explain that, but I'm just trying to emphasize the importance. If you want to do one thing, and again, I'm talking to you over there in the corner, the caregiver, if you want to do one thing to help your family member, to help them do better and to live longer, make sure their environment, especially the one they first enter into after the hospital, is spotless and germ-free as possible. Make sure it's ready for them. Maybe you hadn't thought about that. Maybe you have. Maybe I've just emphasized it. Maybe you think I've overemphasized it. Go ahead and comment below. Tell me what you think about it. Tell me, Jim, I think you're off base. I think you take it too far. Jim, I think you're spot on. That's exactly what we did. Comment below. I'd love to hear your comments on this subject. I think it is important that we discuss it, especially for the entire transplant helper community. So if this video has helped you out in any way, how about go ahead and give me a big thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it. Let me know that something that's going to help you in the future, that encourages me to continue to make content like this. Let me remind you as well that I try to make content to advocate, that's 2 fingers, advocate, educate, and motivate you as a transplant patient. I try to do that on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 4 p.m. But to be honest with you, now that I've got my new favorite outdoor environment, who knows? We may go nearly daily with this. I may start coming to you almost every day. We'll just have to see how it goes. All depends on the weather in that case, I guess. But anyway, I appreciate you joining me today. Let me remind you as well, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Many of you have been watching for a long time and you're not yet subscribed. You say, how do you know? And Google has something called analytics, and I've noticed that only 18% of my viewers, 18% are actually subscribed. That doesn't take away from all the rest of you, but I love your watching. I love being with you when I am. But nonetheless, hit the subscribe button. Help somebody out, especially somebody like me. Hit that big subscribe button, even the bell notification on. Beside that, that will allow you to be notified. Otherwise, YouTube may not let you know, but that will allow you to be notified anytime I put out new content, which again, I hope will advocate, educate, and motivate you as a transplant patient. You see how I counted that off 1, 2, 3 that time? That's the way I'm supposed to do it. Anyway, thanks. Until next time, friends, stay stronger.